called some friends of mine who work for Metro, for the police department. And I was like, I'm going to open up a store up here. It's in the heart of the Northeast. Can you tell me about the area? And they were like, Lisa, this is the area we call the Triangle. This is the longest lead times, the most amount of calls. And they were like, go back to Summerlin.
What made you want to start a business or go into business as an attorney?
So Danielle had called me and she's like, hey, I've been making these alcohol cupcakes. And I'm like, that's genius. Vegas is a place where people come to overspend, overindulge, buy and do things they're not going to buy and do at home. They're going to spend money on a dozen alcohol cupcakes.
Do you feel like there was a benefit for you, like having that job?
I think it was super important because I think you make really desperate decisions sometimes if your back is against the wall from a financial perspective when you're building a company. And so that just eliminated any like weird circumstances we would have had.
What's the revenue like these stores can do?
You know, we're about $500,000. You're talking 500,000 top line.
Welcome to another episode of the On the Pursuit podcast, where we interview 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs, learn from them, figure out what it took for them to get from where they were to where they are and what they got going on currently. Today's episode, I'm super excited to connect with this entrepreneur because I've been watching a bunch of the videos, right? You got an amazing story. You've done a lot of cool things, and I feel like more people just need to know what you have going on. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So when I was checking out like some of your backstory, I saw that you spent some years in pageantry, right? And not only did you just spend some years in pageantry, you champion, like back-to-back champion, right? So you was a champion, the state of Nevada, and then also what's the other one you made that you?
So I'm a former Miss Las Vegas.
Miss Las Vegas, that's what it is.
Former Miss Nevada, and I was top 15 over at nationals.
So that takes a lot of discipline, right? So it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of accountability, and I assume you had other things going on in your life while you're doing that. So do you come from a family that was that like important? Was your mom a champion as well? Did she also compete?
Yeah, so my mom's a former title holder, former Miss Korea. And so growing up, and I appreciate this, my dad told my mom that he didn't want me to compete until I was an adult, until I was like 18.
Okay.
And could choose to compete.
If you wanted to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because, you know, young women, young girls, you kind of have like the rest of your life to worry about like how you look and how you're being perceived outwardly. So when you have really young girls competing, I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of it, of self-confidence and community work. But certainly, just like anything, that you take the good and the bad. And sometimes there could be some negative hurdles that they would just have to deal with because they're in the public eye at such a young age. So I appreciate that I had the opportunity to choose, once I became an adult, to actively compete, and life-changing experience.
Do you think that if you didn't choose to compete, your mom or dad would have been like, you have to do this? Or did they want you to make your own decision, but basically they want you to compete? Yeah.
So my mom always tells people like, oh, like, you know, I didn't like tell her to compete, but like the real story is she called me fall of 2013 and she's like, hey, are you competing for Miss Nevada? And I'm like, or Miss Las Vegas. And I was like, I'm kind of busy. I just started a company. Like we're working, you know? And she was like, you're getting ready to age out. And I was like, so I like woke up one day, I'm aging out of pageantry and modeling. So at the time, the Miss Division, MISS, the Miss Division was 20 to 29 for the Miss United States organization. And so I was 28 at the time, and I was turning 29, heading into that kind of pageant year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to buckle down and like get serious. I hired a pageant coach and went through the journey of preparing to win.
What was the business that you were running at that time?
I was working in a law firm, and we had started Sin City Cupcakes.
So you were working at a law firm, and how long were you doing that?
3.5 years.
And then you decided to start a business on your off time.
So the cupcakes, I started that business while I was still working at the firm. Started that with my co-founder at the time, Danielle. So she was like the operations partner. So during the day when I was like working my day job to help fund our business, she was, you know, answering phones, baking cupcakes, running deliveries. And then nights and weekends, once I got off work, I was baking cupcakes, running deliveries, helping set up events. Literally was working 7 days a week, but having so much fun.
So like as an attorney, it's pretty taxing, right?
For sure. And this was, business litigation and business bankruptcy. And so this is a time period in Vegas where it was just booming. I mean, we were so busy. But it was nice because I got a chance to just have kind of two totally polar opposite worlds, even though both were hard work in their own way. But they were so different from one another. So strangely, it kept me motivated and interested in both.
What made you want to start a business or go into business while you had like as an attorney? Because again, like I'm pretty sure it took a lot of time, right? When you're done doing that at the end of the day, you probably want to relax, probably decompress a little bit.
Sure.
But you were started to work another business.
I was just so excited about the idea. So Danielle had called me and she's like, hey, I've been making these alcohol cupcakes. And I'm like, that's genius. That's a great idea. We should totally start the business in Vegas. Like I was just like so excited about it. And kind of just made all the mistakes you make in the beginning as a first-time founder and you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And we just jumped in like both feet first, right? Like there was no business plan. There was no, like kind of all the things people think you need. It was legit like, how do we just start this? Let's just get it started. And so it was just so much fun. Like you don't know what you don't know, which I think is kind of a blessing because you just jump in both feet first and you're like sprinting because it's so much fun.
So how were you able to sell or market those cupcakes at the time? And alcohol cupcakes, I don't think I've ever had that or even heard of that prior.
Yeah. So, it was one of those things that like we realized really quickly, like Vegas is a place where people come to overspend, overindulge, buy and do things they're not going to buy and do at home. Like they're going to spend money on a dozen alcohol cupcakes. And so we just looked at it as like, look, like how do we pair things that we like, that we enjoy, and kind of bring it to this tourist market that we know clearly exists in Vegas. We have an entire #1 industry of hospitality and tourism right here in our backyard as an international destination. So if this product that we're catering towards tourists to, if it doesn't work here, it's not going to work anywhere.
That's a fact, yeah.
And so we were just like, let's just try it. And we did it in the most, I think, kind of risk mitigated way you can because I still had a day job. I had a day job. I had benefits. So it wasn't this scary, like, I'm quitting my job. I'm going all in. And oh, by the way, we have 3 months of runway. And if we don't make any money in 3 months, like we just have to go back to our jobs because we're about to be, out of the house.
So she had a job as well?
She did not, but that was part of our arrangement because it was like, hey, like, in order for this to like really have a chance, someone has to be on like the day-to-day ops, right? And it can't be me because I literally already have a day job that I have to clock in and clock out at. I have to be at the office. So let's talk about roles and responsibilities and kind of team up. But like I said, nights and weekends, I was literally baking, running deliveries. Like I was all hands on deck. Even though looking back, like I probably could have structured it differently where like I had more time to myself, but I was just so excited about what we were doing and building and we were having so much fun doing it that it didn't feel like work.
Do you feel like there was a benefit for you like having that job? I guess what I'm saying is like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that's just kind of like they go all in and they don't have savings. They don't have like like you said, 3 months of runway. They don't necessarily have even a part-time job, but it sounds like you have something stable that could sustain and allows you to invest in the business. So was that important?
I think it was super important. And I'm really grateful that we did it that way because, there's always stress and risk when you start a business. But I'm so glad that we took the financial stress and risk out of the equation because I think you make really desperate decisions sometimes if your back is against the wall from a financial perspective when you're building a company. And so that just eliminated any like weird circumstances we would have had. Like my mortgage was paid for, my car insurance was paid for, like I didn't have to stress, right? So it was just every like free dollar that I had, instead of spending that on a vacation or taking that and going shopping or going out with my friends, I was pouring it back into the business we were building.
So how old were you when you were obviously an attorney, but starting this business?
So we started the business, I was 27.
All right. So where did you get that, I guess, that business mindset to do that, right? Because, you got the regular job and you saw entrepreneurship, but there's a lot of discipline that's there, right? You have a partnership. You talked about building, structure within that partnership. So where did you get some of that mindset from?
I think just being around my parents. I mean, my dad was a military guy, W-2 his entire
So you
life.
came through with some structure already.
For sure. Yeah. My dad was Air Force, and then he worked for the Department of Defense while I was growing up. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom with me until I was 6th grade, and then she went and got her cosmetology license, and to this day actually still owns a hair salon.
That's amazing.
And so, just seeing my parents are hard workers, like I saw them work hard, and they were able to build a wonderful life, and I certainly didn't want for anything. I was involved in like all the extracurricular things. They really pushed education. Like education was very, very important to them. And so I think just, being around that and having that structure, I'm very grateful that I came from a family where I had an example of like, this is what hard work looks like, and you can be rewarded for your hard work.
Yeah. So one of the things in your story that I thought was, really interesting is, you know who Cody Sanchez is?
Of course.
So,
yeah. We've been friends a long time.
Okay, cool. So you know how she always talks about like boring businesses?
Mm-hmm.
So like your post office business, that could be deemed a boring business, 100%. Right? And I'm pretty sure it's looked over by a lot of people. I'm pretty sure like people drive by like little like strip malls or like sections of town that have like different commercial mixes in there, and there's always like a post office store or something like that.
Mail for you or some name that you're like, what is that?
100%. So how did you identify that to be not only a business but something that I think I could do this and I could see that I could be profitable? Yeah.
So just on a straight personal level, I had a mailbox that I rented from a local UPS store here locally in Vegas for like 7-8 years. And they'd auto charge my credit card every year for my box. And I'd get the notification on my email. And I was like, I don't really use that. I should cancel it. And then I never would. And so I was like, what is this business model? For sure other people are not canceling, you know? And then I started kind of like looking around. And initially I was going to buy a UPS franchise store. So I started kind of going down that route of what does that look like to be a franchisee and buy a UPS store. And I called a friend of mine, Greg, at the time he had 3 UPS stores in San Diego, franchise stores. And I said, hey, I was like, tell me about this business model. And he's like, it's great. He's like, but like, let me explain to you where the revenue comes from. The mailboxes are steady recurring revenue. That's what keeps your lights on. That's what pays your staff. The shipping is ancillary and seasonal, and it's pure profit once you have your mailboxes like covering your expenses, your top line expenses. And I was like, okay. And I said, so like, what's the catch? And he was like, if you call one of my stores right now and say, hi, I'm a new mailbox customer. I'd like to have a mailbox. He's like, I don't even have one to give you. I'm maxed out. And I was like, why can't you just put in more? And he's like, because I'm in a franchise. He's like, the franchise dictates your layout, right? So he had whatever it was, 310 mailboxes or whatever. It's like 300 something mailboxes that he was legit maxed out. He couldn't even offer one if he, he couldn't offer one. He didn't have one available. So he's like, I'm maxed out on the number of mailboxes that I can put in the store. That means I'm maxed out on the number of mailbox customers I can have, which is silly to me because that's steady recurring revenue, right? Every month. So he said, if I were you, I would look into doing an independent store because
I could see that. Yeah.
Then you are not beholden to franchise fees. You're not beholden to mandatory marketing fees, and you can configure the store however you want. So if I could do it over, he's like, I'm happy where I'm at. He had him like 10 years. He's like, I'm happy where I'm at. It's all good. He said, but if I could do it over, I would look into an independent store where I could slam in 1,000 mailboxes if I wanted to, right? And then have shipping in the back. And I was like, interesting. So then I started paying attention to independent stores. I started looking for independent stores around me.
And I bet, since your subconscious is open, you seen them.
Then you start seeing them. Before I never saw them, right? Mm-hmm. And then once I started kind of being on the lookout for an independent store, not a UPS franchise store. Yeah. So I was like looking for an independent store. Up the street from my house in Summerlin is a store, it's still around, called Postal Pros. And Andrew, I knew the owner because I was a patron. I realized I've dropped off Amazon packages there and eBay, with the prepaid label. Like I was like, I've dropped it off there before. I bought stamps from there before. So I was like, okay, like let me go in there. And I went in there and I realized he's got all these mailboxes up in the front. He's got shipping in the back, like exactly what Greg was talking about. And I was like, interesting. So I go to Andrew and I was like, I have a business proposition for you. I was like, do you want to like expand or grow? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay. He said, well, I want to open up one of these stores down at like 215 in Flamingo area. It's far enough away. It's not competition for him. He said, but I don't know anything about this business. would you be open? I'll pay you $10,000 if you let me follow you around for 2 weeks. I'll capture all your processes. I'll make you like a nice handbook. He didn't have like an SOP book. So I was like, I'll make the SOP book for you that he can use, to train.
So he got benefit from that.
100%. Yeah. I was like, I will pay you and you'll get free labor because I'm going to be in there.
And I'll create those resources for you.
And I will create like SOPs that you can use, moving forward for your business. And he was like, what? He was just like, you're so crazy. He was like, okay, fine. And so literally like we drew up like a consulting agreement and I legit trained in his store, like a new hire. Like I was there all day, like each day. And so people thought I was a new hire. Like he had customers in there who were like, you got chicken here. You know what I mean? Like
he got a whole mentorship program.
Hold up, straight up. Yeah, exactly. Like a whole thing. And so I took notes of everything in the store, right? Literally starting from like unlock the front door and like, what's the next thing you do? Oh, you unlock a folding gate. So it was like these things that I was like, okay, mentally, I was like, oh, I need a folding gate. I need that. Like, it was just creating that list based on the actions that are taken in the store. And then just little things that I end up modifying for my stores. Like, for example, his counters at his store are a good height if you're seated on a stool. You've got like the computer there with the scale and the whole thing. Well, logistically, right, procedurally, when a customer walks up and they say, hey, I want to ship this, to New York, you stand up and you're talking to them, you're conversing, you got the box on there, maybe you're moving it around. So you're standing. So the counter feels quite low if you're standing up. So little things like that, like at my stores, the counters are standing height because, it's not that staff is going to stand on their feet all day, but when a customer comes in, you are on your feet because you're moving around boxes and packing and doing whatever else. So it's more comfortable if the counter is at a standing height instead of at a lower seated height, but you're standing. So just little tweaks like that where like clearly he already had that going in the store. So I looked at, doing my store. I said, okay, how can I improve and modify what I've learned from Andrew? And part of it too was I looked at it as an investment in because the UPS franchise was going to cost me like almost $300,000 to buy into a franchise. And so I looked at, hey, if I spend $10,000 and get into this business, like I think I have an idea of this business and that I think it, would work the way that it seems that it would work, but I don't know for sure. So I looked at the 10,000 as like an investment into the learning because I could have worked there for 2 weeks and been like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then saved myself all the time, money, and heartache of like actually starting the store. Right. So I looked at it as an investment in of like, let me just get a peek behind the curtain, try it out. And if it works, great. If not, I can pull the plug and it's no harm, no foul. I'm not in a franchise agreement. I'm not stuck in a lease. I'm not, any of those things.
You really save money if you were to look at it.
That's exactly what I thought. I was
save money and
300,000 versus 10 to like get into the business, like nitty gritty, like work in it and check it out.
And you don't have any of those franchise restrictions. Like I guess with, he had what you said, only 300 mailboxes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So when you opened up this store, do you have one or do you have more than one? You got two now. So when you opened up your mailbox store, did you create other revenue streams within that, like that he didn't have? Did you see other verticals, other opportunities that you can bring money in?
Yeah, because I looked at where he was bringing money, right? So obviously it's in mailboxes, it's shipping. He has merch in his store, so he
like T-shirts?
No, not T-shirts, but like he's got these like candles from like a local candle maker, right? He's got like these like knick-knack, I don't know, it's like kids plushy toy things with like a keychain on him, like. He got impulse items. Stuff. Yeah, he's got stuff in there that like works for his clientele. He's in the most expensive zip code in Summerlin, which is 89135. So he's got a lot of like Summerlin moms up in there, right? Pulling up in their Range Rover with 2 kids, like running around the store, like it works for his clientele. The way I looked at it, I was like, I don't want to deal with merch because I don't want to hold inventory.
Yeah.
1, I'm starting up, right? I don't want to hold inventory. And 2, I don't even know what would sell here. So let me just focus on the basics, which I know are a core part of the business, which are mailboxes, shipping, notary. He offered notary as well.
Yeah, I actually just used notary last week.
That's what, what I mean? Like you don't think about notary until you need one.
Yeah, and you're like, where's the notary at?
Yes, exactly. So I was like, that's solid, because I looked at that as you will make your money back. And then over time, it essentially becomes almost 100% profit margin item because you've made the licensing fees back. You've made the $200 back, right?
Yeah, and now they got virtual notaries too.
Yeah.
Yeah, which super comes in handy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I looked at, okay, what are the core kind of items, like revenue streams that are core to this business? And then how can I also expand? So these independent stores, that's what's cool, is like you have so many options, right? You could do fingerprinting, you could do key cutting, you could do U-Haul, you could do whatever. You have a lot of different options. We have U-Haul at our store, which is great. They're a great partner to work with. We tried money transfer. Some people do money orders. We tried money transfer for a couple months. I didn't like that you had to like hold cash in the store and that kind of thing. So we pulled the plug on that. But the point is that like we were able to try a lot of different things because we were an independent store.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can try whatever you want. You could try whatever merch, you think would resonate because it's your store.
So what can what's the revenue like these stores can do?
Yeah.
Like, and then when did you decide like now is a good time to open up another location?
So, I mean, now, granted, we're heading into our 6th year, but, we're about $500,000. You're talking 500,000 top line.
That's great.
And it's a 50% margin business, right? This is not like a restaurant or a food business where you're like squeezing for every penny to try to make margin, it's solid in relation to your margins. But so when we got started, though, the initial plan was Sarah, who's my business partner with Ship, she was going to be the operations partner. And she came over to Andrews as well and trained. And so that was the original plan because I've got, the brokerage. At the time I still had the bakery. Like I had other things going on where I was like, okay, like I need an operations partner. I will put up the money. I'm gonna build this thing. But I need an operations partner to help me run the store. I'll come work weekends, like whatever's required. But like I do need someone day to day because I'm not gonna be there day to day. That was the original plan. 2 months into
I'm liking how you're structuring your business. Yeah.
2 months into our Fort Apache location, I got a wild hair and got super excited about the location we have as well, which is up in the Northeast by Nellis Air Force Base. And it came available and I heard about it and I was like, what is this magical place? It was like $1 a foot. So I was like, what is this magical place that's so cheap? It's outside the base. And like coming from a military family, I'm like partial. I'm like, perfect. Like we can hire military spouses. We can service the base. Like I'm all in on this. Yeah. Let's get up there. So I go up there. This is the Northeast Las Vegas, and abandoned Walmart was the neighbor. And I'm like just a vacant Walmart. A vacant Walmart. Yeah. So I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, Walmart never pulls out of a neighborhood. They do so much research up front, right? Like they don't just pull out of a neighborhood. So I'm like, that's weird. So of course, like I'm on the internet, right? And I find this Reddit thread of that Walmart and they called it Stab Mart. Yes. And Walmart pulled out because of crime and shoplifting. And I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean?
It must have been rampant.
Straight up. Yes. Like I was like, this is what is going on, So then I quickly realized, so you have the base, you have Nellis Air Force Base. And then you have the community that's right outside of the base that has nothing to do with the military. It's low income, just a totally different segment. And they don't work on the base. They don't interact with folks on the base. Everyone on the base, they live on the base. They live on the base. And all their resources are on the base. Like there's a post office on the base.
Yeah.
Right? So I was just like, interesting. Okay. Again, the entrepreneurial side, I'm like, but the rent's so cheap.
You like opportunity.
Like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, the rent's so cheap. And like, there was nobody there. We were like this island.
So that Walmart, was it any other businesses or was it just on an island by itself?
There was a mini mart that was open and operational. There was a barber shop.
Okay.
And like a Chinese food restaurant.
Like in that same cluster.
Same kind of L. Yep. Exactly. So it was like an L situation and then Walmart backed up to the back of that L.
Gotcha.
So abandoned Walmart, then you got the L with the mini mart. And you go to the corner, and then that's the barbershop and the Chinese food and a tailor. But that whole L side, nobody. So the suite that we would, we were going to have, landlord's like, pick a suite. It doesn't matter. They're all the same price. And I'm like, this is crazy. So we pick suite number 7. Because we're like, lucky number 7's Vegas, know. And I'm in there. And we start doing tenant improvements. We're like, we start building out furniture. I'm ordering mailboxes. We're just starting to get it set up. And you look out in the parking lot and it's just, there's craziness going on at the mini mart all the time. You know what I mean? It's just like
activity.
There's activity, there's activity going on. And I'm like, this is crazy. Maybe this is a bad idea, but like, I'm kind of in it now, And I called some friends of mine who work for Metro, for the police department. And I was like, I gave them the address, it's Las Vegas Boulevard. And I'm like, I'm going to open up a store up here. It's in the heart of the Northeast. Can you tell me about the area, like the crime map and stuff? And they were like, Lisa, this is an area we call the Triangle. This is the longest lead times, the most amount of calls. There's an apartment complex there called the Eagle Trace. And at the time it was like, not great. And they were like, go back to Summerlin. Like, they were like, what are you doing? Like, get out of there, go back to Summerlin. You're going to get robbed. And I was like,
opportunity.
But still, you know what I mean? I was just like, I think like most entrepreneurs, I was like very optimistic.
Yeah, you get in there early, right? It's almost like if you go to a part of town, if, obviously you're in real estate, right? You go to a part of town, you're like, this is next up, or I can see what may happen, or, they're in the need for, a business like this.
So I was just like, I think it could work. I think it could work because the closest post office was quite far. It's on East Cary. It's pretty far. So I was like, okay. And so unless you have access to the base, you don't even have a post office around you. So I'm like, there has to be something. And there's tons of residential. You've got these apartment complexes there. You've got little homes there. So I'm like, maybe it could work. Maybe it could work. So we soft open. I hired military spouses. I literally had, I remember one of them, their husband came over and he was like he wanted to meet me in person because he was like, what crazy person is opening a store over here?
Yeah.
He was just, and he's like, I don't know why my wife wants to work over here. He was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And we opened, and the very first customers we had the day we opened our doors were these two little old ladies living in the apartments across the street. They were so happy to have a place to buy stamps because without us, they could take a bus to the closest post office.
Just to get stamps.
Yes, exactly. And that's how they pay their utility bill.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have internet. They don't have a laptop where they're paying everything online. They're writing a check and putting it in an envelope and putting a stamp on it, right? And their apartment complex outgoing mailbox kept getting broken into. So they were like so excited to have us there, to have a place to buy stamps that was convenient. They could walk over, and
a place to drop the mail.
A secure place to drop off their mail. Yeah, they were so pumped.
And pick the mail up.
Yeah. They were so pumped. And we were like, oh, okay. We're going to be just fine, right? Their grandma buys stamps from us. No one's bothering us here, And so knock on wood, to this day, 6 years in, we haven't been vandalized. We haven't been robbed. We're part of the community, right? We provide a much needed service to the community, and we do as much as we can in there, right? We've got a book exchange table. We've hosted resume workshops before. We've hosted VA home loan workshops.
So you're doing community stuff inside there too.
Yeah, because of the location.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now that you have these two stores, do you look for these opportunities to maybe purchase? Are you
all
looking
the time?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always my head's on a swivel. I'm always want to keep an eye out for sure. And I just think too, kind of certainly along, with Cody's ethos as well of Main Street and small business is the backbone of this country, right? It's truly what keeps the society ticking, those are the OG job providers and job creators are small business. And that's why I just love the stores, from a practical standpoint, I was excited to explore the business model because coming from a bakery, I was like, I want a business where I don't deal with the perishable item. I want a business where I don't have to work on holidays and weekends. I want a business, and then coming from, real estate and law, I want a business where I'm not always available, where customers can't always call me. And it's, unreasonable for me not to be available. So I loved the model. So I was like, we're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Right? No one calls me after 6 o'clock. It's a really straightforward business. And so it's been an amazing journey, not only having our stores, on a local level, but then creating the course that teaches other people how to open up their own store, which was at Cody's pushing. She was like, if you don't open up a store, if you don't do a course, I'm going to do a course. And I was like, okay, fine. And I'm so glad that I did, because now we literally have hundreds of students in our course, and over 15 of them have opened their own store all around the country.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So you basically took the SOPs,
Yep.
the information,
Yep.
the real life like data.
Yep.
Can consolidate
Put it all
in the
into
course.
one platform.
Yeah.
Exactly. Took it A to Z, hired a course consultant to help me out, like make it right. Her name's Nikki. She's amazing.
Yep.
Like get it dialed in, you know? And then we still continually add to it. So like when we brought on U-Haul as a
Which is
partner,
smart,
I made a U-Haul module. Like I'm going to share what is working with us, right? Because if I'm happy to share it like A to Z. There's no gatekeeping. It's literally all in there. Like procedurally, phone scripts for UPS access point. I mean, all that stuff's in there because the hardest part is actually executing.
No, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
I can give you all the information.
And all the information's on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
You just package it up. You make
Package
it super
it
simple
up.
for them to go through from A to Z.
And the nice thing is too, we also have a community that's in there. And so I do a quarterly call as well, but we have like a community thread that's like kind of like live in real time. And it's awesome because they all support each other too, all the students, right? And you have this gradient of folks who have started their own store, all the way to like people who are just like dabbling and like kind of planning like next year or two to start a store. So like they're all together in one community. And so they're answering each other's questions. They're sharing what works. They're sharing what doesn't work. And it's really cool to just be part of that and really see it grow.
How are you marketing that digital product?
So initially it was just sharing it on my personal social media and just getting a chance to talk about it on, you know, podcasts like this. And then now, you know, Nikki and her team are kind of amping up like the digital marketing side of saying, you know, hey, how can we get more eyeballs of business owners who feel a pain point of whatever current business they're in? You know, one of our students, for example, he and his wife, they own a Vietnamese restaurant in Colorado, and they've had it for like 10 years. And they're just like, we love our business. It like provides for us, but they're like, we are tired of working holidays. We're tired of working long hours. We're tired of having, you know, crazy staff issues, you know, whatever. So they're like, we are so excited to like add this to our business portfolio where eventually maybe we can phase ourselves out of the restaurant, but like have something that's open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. They're like, that sounds fantastic.
Is your revenue stuck? If you're an entrepreneur and your revenue is stuck, you don't need to fix your products or services. You need new audiences to discover you more consistently. Podcast guesting is the ideal way to be discovered 24 hours a day by your ideal clients. And guess what? The more people that know you, the more people can flow you. Head over to podcastmasterypack.com and take advantage of your first or next podcast. Let's go.
So like with the digital side of the business, right? Everyone's doing like some courses or let's say a community or even a mentorship. Do you feel like having something that you don't necessarily have to put a lot of time and sweat equity into is important for entrepreneurs and business owners to have? Or even if you're someone at home, do you feel like having some sort of digital revenue coming in, course, project like that is important for people to do?
You know, I was really surprised at how kind of streamlined the whole process was because it sounded really daunting in the beginning, which is why I put it off for so long.
Like you're talking about like putting a course together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had put it off for like 6, 7, 8 months. You know, after I filmed a YouTube video with Cody and it like kind of popped off. This summer will be 2 years since we filmed that. And it went viral. It popped off and I had all these people that were, you know, hitting me up on DM, email, whatever, being like, hey, I want to start my own store. And initially I was answering these one-off emails and then obviously got inundating. And I was like, this is not like one, effective use of my time. Two, like I need to disseminate this information widely. And, but it still just sounded daunting, right? Like, oh, I'm going to put together this whole like course, like, do I need to like teach it? Like I was like, what does this even look like? And I just was like, I have so many other things going on. Like it's not a priority. And then I went to a goal setting retreat with one of my real estate mentors, Ken McElroy. We went, so it was not this January, but the previous January. So January 23. And one of the exercises at this goal setting retreat was to get out a piece of paper and write down all of your back burner projects. All the things are kind of floating around out there, right? That you're like, oh, I should probably do that.
I'm going to get to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so on that list was creating an e-course for the stores. And finally I was just like, I'm just going to pick something on the list and like actually execute. Yeah. And so that's how it came about.
So during all the time, right, of doing the businesses up to this far, are you in a relationship at all? Like, are you choosing you first? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, I had a romantic relationship for about 1.5 years, recently. And so it was a, very mutual copacetic breakup. I think, at this stage in my life, I've been so focused on building, and that's really where my priorities have been.
And you're talking about like building your businesses and finances?
Yep, exactly. Like building up my businesses. Even like all the community work that I do too. Like, if I'm not with someone who kind of folds into all of that, or I guess accommodates it might be a word
compliment,
too.
maybe.
Yeah. Like it's not that it's not possible. It's just there's more friction or it's just a little bit harder. Right. And so for me, I mean, I'm really excited to just continue to kind of hunker down and focus on the things that I'm building. But I do want in the future for sure, like family, marriage, kids, all that stuff. Like family's super, super important to me and I'm very close to my family. So I do want that, in the future. It's just not like an extreme priority right now.
So what are your business goals, I guess, right? Because you said that's priority. Mm-hmm. So is it a number? Is it a certain amount of acquisitions? Like is it different business categories? Like what would the goal be?
Yeah. So it's changed over time. I would say, even like 6, 7, 8 years ago, it was like tied to like a number, right? And then like once you hit that number, there's always another number, right?
Yeah.
Like
it just raises.
Out of zero. You know what I mean? Like so you keep kind of reaching for more numbers. So for me at this point, it's how can I diversify my business portfolio and truly be involved in projects that I'm excited about. Yeah. So I did an exercise with Ken McElroy, and it was really good. We got out like butcher paper and we wrote down all of the things that I'm involved in. So it was like all the businesses, all the community work, all the boards I sit on, like everything that you have going on in your life, right? Write them all down. And then I circled which are the ones that make me money. Okay. Right. So I'm circling. There's a whole side of the page. There's no circles. Right. Yeah. I'm like looking at it. Then you circle which ones could you see yourself doing for 10 years or more? Okay. So I'm circling. There's some stuff over here. I'm circling. Which ones do you feel like have like impactful, purposeful work? Like you feel impactful and purposeful in the things that you do for that thing, right? I'm circling. There's some, nonprofit stuff over here getting circled. And through that one exercise alone was how I realized that like there were some things I need to take off my plate. And that included cupcakes, right? 'Cause at that point I'd had that business for 11 years and I couldn't see myself doing it for another 10. I didn't feel purposeful in the work that we were doing with it. So I say all that to say that like, the goal has changed over time, but now, I'm really excited to put my time, effort, and energy and resources into things that I'm personally excited about that I could see myself doing for like a decade or multi-decades.
Yeah. So that's actually really interesting. And I think the way that you kind of laid out how you can choose those things, like you basically did like a self-audit, right?
Straight up. Yeah. And there were certain boards that I realized just I'm on it for name alone. There's like no impact. I'm not doing anything impactful. Like I didn't feel impactful in the work I'm doing. Certainly didn't make any money. Like I was just like, take that off. Right?
How do the boards work?
So, there's several nonprofit boards that I had sat on, whether as an executive or advisory position. And you just kind of help guide like overall vision. There's certain elements you help execute. There's some that are paid positions, some are not. Quite a few of the ones that I was on were just straight volunteer. And
it's almost like consulting, like the heads of the business in a sense, or
a little bit, yeah. I mean, it's more like you're helping drive like overall high level strategy, right? So if let's say it's a nonprofit that they have a certain community service platform, they want to eradicate homelessness or feed the homeless or whatever the initiative is, then there's going to be certain goals and like metrics that are important to that organization. And so as a board member in general, you're helping support whatever the larger vision is, and you're helping their executive team execute on those things. It's good work. It's solid work. It needs to be done. But it was one of those things where like I had so much of it on my plate, and I was just like, I need to consolidate this. I need to pick like 2 things that are important to me, not 6.
I mean, it sounds like you keep yourself really, really busy. So like those board positions and even working with some of these nonprofits and some of these other companies, like what was it about sitting on these boards that, are attracted to you, or why does that and how does that fit into your overall vision for business?
Yeah. So currently, for example, I'm on the executive board for the Nevada Policy Research Institute.
Nevada Policy Research Institute.
Yes.
Is that how policies are being introduced inside the state?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And so we're focused on pro-growth economic policy. So these are policies that are going to foster competition, free market, collaboration, really empowering the entrepreneur.
We need that in California because we ain't got nothing.
Yeah,
in there. California's crazy.
You do.
Listen, California, I'm pretty sure you drive down, you can see a lot of opportunities for post office businesses because a lot of these commercial places are just vacant now because of COVID. They're just like big eyesores. Yeah.
See, and that's why, I think people tend to shy away from politics and policy. I mean, one, politics is just like ugly, but policy itself, can be pretty boring, and it can be kind of like over people's heads in general. But the reality is that if we are not paying attention to policy, we're not paying attention to the type of policy that our elected officials are voting for, guess what? Like, we're still beholden to it, right? As a citizen, as a resident, you are still beholden to whatever rules they decide upon in their ivory tower.
Or don't decide on. Yeah, exactly.
And especially as a business owner, we're totally beholden to those rules because we get fined or we get, there's some sort of
taxed.
punishment. Yes. Yeah. If you don't follow the rules. So how do we have a say in the rules, right? How do we help drive the conversation so that folks who are boots on the ground and know what it's like to run a business in said local area are helping shape the policy that you're going to be beholden to?
100%.
It's very important. And so like that's something that, I definitely am very passionate about. And I think for me, it just kind of helps drive the overall mission of like, empowering entrepreneurship, supporting business, supporting small business, because I am a business owner, right? I am a small business owner. Like I am an entrepreneur. So naturally, I'm going to be inclined to want to support the very thing that puts food on my table and others' tables.
Yeah. And you're also in real estate too, right? And I think I saw that you're with Angle and Volkers.
Yeah, so I own the Angle and Volkers with my partner Kathy.
I used to work for Angle. Well, I used to.
No way. Oh my gosh.
In Boston.
Small world. Awesome. It's a great brand.
Like 3 years.
Yeah.
Clean.
Great brand. Yeah.
Crisp.
Yeah. Big fan of the brand. And I've been with major brands on the real estate side. So I started my real estate career with Sotheby's. Had a team there for 5.5 years. Brought the Christie's brand, Christie's International Real Estate. I brought Christie's here.
Yeah.
Had that for a little over 2 years. Christie's International Real Estate sold to At Properties in November of 21. So then top of 22, we acquired the Angle and Volkers for Las Vegas, Henderson, Summerlin. And they've been phenomenal. They've been wonderful to work with.
So what's attractive to you about being in real estate, right, as a broker, and then having agents underneath you? And how has that landscape changed over time, especially right post-COVID?
So I really enjoy it. So, I initially got into real estate when I was still working at the firm. We had clients that had real estate needs. And initially we were just kind of like referring it out, and it was these like Yahoo agents. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like I was
I could do a better job.
Yeah, like someone do better, please. And again, because I was still working at the firm and, we still had, we had Sin City Cupcakes going at that time. So then I went to my first real estate partner and we teamed up. And I said, look, I was like, I've got a pipeline of business. I've got high-end clientele, like off the bat. We'll have listings, we'll have whatever. I don't have time to service it in a full-time capacity the way that they deserve.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
The way that they deserve, right? But you're a full-time agent. Would you be open to teaming up? We'll create a team. I've got the pipeline of business. I also want to learn the business. So let's team up and let's just split everything 50-50. And he was like, all right. And so literally that was a almost 6-year journey that we were on together. And it was awesome. I learned all the things, right? I literally was doing open houses. I was running around with buyers. I was negotiating contracts. Like I got a chance to be very boots on the ground and I was picking weeds out of driveways before I was showing, you know what I mean? Like I was doing all the things. And I knew as a brokerage owner that I didn't want to foster an environment where I'm competing against my agents for business.
Yeah.
It's just a different thing. It's like not good or bad. There's a lot of different ways to, you have some brokerages out there that is their model. You have others that aren't. Coming from a very competitive environment, I knew that if I wanted to have longevity, if I wanted to have a brokerage where I have agents with me for a decade or more, and they are going to be top producers, because I want them to be top producers, because the house takes a cut, right? The house takes a cut on every transaction.
Yeah.
So like, why would I not financially be incentivized to want to have every excellent, ethical top producer around me? How do you keep them though, right? And if you, in my opinion, if you are a broker owner who owns the brokerage and you're also a top producer, regardless of sphere and, whatever lead gen. But if there's a cold call that comes in the office and it's a juicy $3 million listing, guess who's getting it? Not top producer Annie, who might be number one on the list. You're going to take it because you're a top producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just, that's what it is. It's not
Feast
good or
of
bad.
famine, it's real estate.
Yeah. Like that's what it is. But I've been in Annie's position where you're like, I've been here 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, throw me a bone here.
You're like, what's up, son?
Yes. Yeah. You're like, throw me a bone here because I know I've been making you money.
Yeah,
you
facts.
know?
Yeah.
And once it gets to a point where you're like, this is not sustainable anymore, I'm going to bounce and go somewhere where I have a better split or I get more leads or whatever, right? Or feel more supported or whatever. There's a myriad of reasons. But like the point is that I think you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who's a top producer, who's good at what they do, who cares about what they do and wants to grow. They're serious about their growth. They're not going to stay with you if they know that you're going to get every juicy piece that comes in, right? So I hand out referrals from my sphere, from my network. I'm not a buy-sell agent. I don't work a single transaction. I refer it all out. And I take a cut. I take a referral fee.
As you should.
I take a referral fee, right? It was my client or whatever, or my contact. But they take it and they run with it. And over time, that person ends up becoming their client. Yeah. And I love seeing that because then I know I've handed it off to the right person.
And you still have the relationship.
Totally. Yeah, and they're happy. They're happier with me.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? I'm standing in the middle of the street and I'm willing to risk it all because I want you to grow, whether through paid or organic measures. Over the next 5 days, the Audience Growth Challenge, we're going to be teaching you podcast guesting strategies, video marketing strategies, social media predictable viral creation strategies, the power of radio and digital PR. And these strategies are what you need to grow your business over the next 4, 6, 9, even 12 months to skyrocket your success. So if you want to join the challenge, all you got to do is click the link below and join the Audience Growth Challenge and join it as a VIP. Let's get it.
So I really like that. It's like you see these opportunities, right? Different areas that you want to get into. But then it's like, okay, how can I partner? How can I collaborate? How can I bring some value? You're learning, whether you're investing time or money, right? You're learning. And then you're creating like these moats in these different areas. So you using the, what's that? Cupcakes is food, right? For using food, real estate.
Yep. Shipping retail. Yeah. Like,
right?
Yep. Venture capital. I mean, it's just, you can keep growing the buckets, right? And it's kind of endless. The amount of buckets you have could potentially be endless depending on how much bandwidth and contribution you're making, right? Yeah. But there's stuff that like you could just be the money person or you could be the consulting person or you could be whatever, right? There's so many different things you can bring to the table and yet still have an ownership stake in the business, still have a meaningful,
role.
Impact. Yeah, meaningful role, meaningful impact. And you get to build with people that you actually like, that you want to grow with, that you want to build with. So that's part of business, I think, is like choosing who's around you. And that's amazing.
And what about venture capital? So what was it about that was like, I feel like I can make some impact here. This is a good space for me to be. Yeah. And obviously you learn a ton.
A ton.
So how did that happen?
So I had angel invested for probably about 7 years, where you're just writing kind of, $25K, $50K checks,
and this is just,
10K checks.
Just you personally?
Yes, like as an individual, as Lisa.
Yeah. And were you looking for the opportunities or were they just coming to you? Or both?
Yeah, kind of both, right? But people knew I was doing kind of small check investing, kind of for one of the first checks in, just locally. And so, they're great people that you
go to Lisa, she got the money.
So I was like, writing little one-off checks here and there. What I realized, though, I was like, I need to learn about private equity, venture capital. Like I need to learn about venture capital because as a founder, as a businesses, I never raised money. I never went out and raised money for equity, right? So I never did that. So I never went down that route and I never had the experience of it. But I've been on the other side where I've been pitched and I'm getting the decks and I'm, negotiating equity. Or maybe I'm negotiating debt first and then equity. That flips into equity if they're successful, whatever, right? So I've been on that side of it. But I said, how can I do this in a larger way? Because as an angel investor, you're limited, right? You're writing, like I said, 25K, 50K checks. And you're just kind of on this long journey with the founder, right? With venture capital, what I liked about it was that if you invest into a fund, that fund is going to make 25 investments, for example, over the life of the fund. As opposed to
you just doing one.
Exactly.
So that 25 would represent like one.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In a sense.
Right. Yeah. So, with venture, I was like, okay, so I can write a $200,000 check.
For multiple businesses.
That's going to go into 25 different businesses.
Which is way more opportunities for success.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's truly like risk mitigation. It's diversification in like the best sense of the word. And, oh, by the way, I don't have to go do all the due diligence myself and go, kick tires and go knock on doors and go talk to people. Right. The investment committee that I'm investing in that runs the fund is responsible for doing that. So then the question becomes like, well, what fund do you invest in? Who do you trust? Right? Like there's so many funds out there. I feel like everyone's got a fund now, right? There's so many funds. And so I started just kind of kicking tires a little bit, doing due diligence on a couple funds that were out there that were kind of warm intros of folks that I already knew or folks that I knew that they knew a buddy who had a fund or something like that. So I was like talking to people and I was in due diligence. Like there was a fund that I met with out of Park City. And I remember talking to them. It was very impressive GP list, general partner list. It was a bunch of like Goldman Sachs guys, like very experienced, And I remember asking them, what else are we doing for these entrepreneurs besides writing checks? And no one really had a good answer. Like they were just kind of like, well, our role is to help them get prepared to raise for their next round. And I was like, I get all that. I said, but raising for a round, let's say it's a priced round and you're raising, at a $50 million valuation. Amazing. That doesn't mean that you're profitable. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that your company's actually worth $50 million. You have some other, you have some fund telling you that it's worth that based on some multiple, based on your industry, based on, right? So I was just like, okay, all right. And I remember flying back to Vegas and I was like, maybe that's venture. Maybe that is venture capital, right? I'm like, okay. A few weeks later, I get a call from a good friend of mine, Justin Nahama. He's phenomenal. Former Marine, former federal prosecutor, former JAG, and he's just a badass attorney. So I trusted him, already. So he calls me and he's like, so myself and two buddies, we created this fund and I'd love to talk to you about it. And I was like, your ears must have been burning because I was like just talking about like venture capital and I want to get in.
That's
whatever.
Law of attraction right there.
100%. It was totally law of attraction. So I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more, And he and Mike Sherbakov are based in San Diego. Ryan's up in the Bay. And so we all got on a Zoom because I'm here. We got on a Zoom and I just immediately like fell in love in the best way. I already know Justin. I already trust him. I already like him. I already find him very competent. Mike and Ryan, obviously I just met them, but like Justin had a long-term relationship with both of them in different capacities and them coming together and like, they're all dads too. So it's like, they're young, but they're dads. So it's like, they've got this very nurturing quality about them. And like, I absolutely felt like kind of right at home where I was like, these guys are going to take care of every single entrepreneur they invest in. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to come alongside them on the journey and like really do it right. Not this bullshit about like, oh, we just have to get them to their next round. And if they fail, that's like part of the process. Like they're in it, you know? And so I felt so good about teaming up with them. So I came in as an LP, as a limited partner. And then I called Justin back like 2 days later. And I was like, what is it going to take for me to be a GP?
And that's general partner.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's like,
excuse me?
Yeah. He's like, it's not really how it works. You know what I mean? Like if you have every LP flip into a GP, like there's, you know what I mean? It's just a little crazy.
You're like, there's checks and balances, Lisa.
Yeah. He was like, it's not really how it works. And I was like, look, I'm not anything about venture. I said, but I do think I can provide value.
Yeah.
1, I know I can bring in LPs. 2, I want a say in the companies that we invest in. And I also, more importantly, want a say in how we show up for these founders. Not that I don't trust you guys, but I am so excited about this. And I just truly feel like
you want to be more involved.
Yeah, I want to be more involved. Exactly. I want to lean in, and I think I should lean in for equity on the cap table on the GP side, And he was just like, oh my God, you are so crazy. And so I flew out we all met up in San Diego in person because like I said, I hadn't met Mike Ryan in person, just only over Zoom. So we all met up in person and hammered it out.
How long ago was that?
2 years ago.
Wow. So how many businesses have you guys invested in since?
So we've invested in 10 so far.
Okay.
We've looked at like 1,500 deals. Now.
How are the 10 doing?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what I love about our thesis, we have a really tight investment thesis. We invest in early stage technology companies that are focused on national security and dual use. So our sweet spot as a fund is helping our companies get non-dilutive government funding.
Okay. Well, okay. That's amazing. So one of my good friends, also a client of mine, he was on the podcast twice. He's in government contracting.
Okay.
Yeah. So he basically teaches it. He's been government contracting for, I think, over 15 years.
Okay.
He literally he just talks about like once you acquire a government contract, all the different like verticals that you can go into. So he actually has a corporate partnership. He got one of them is with the NFL.
Okay, awesome.
So he basically the contract he got with them was helping them build the infrastructure for their big events.
Yeah.
So Super Bowl, they needed him to build the infrastructure so they can build Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So that's pretty dope. The thing about government contracting, I think that is really interesting is like it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. Like there's a need.
Totally.
There's
exactly.
Like,
and there's
even down to
government
like paper
money
clips
out there for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
And I think it's something that people don't know about or they overlook or whatever. But it's like if you land a government contract and you're not a 6-figure earner or maybe arguably even a 7-figure earner, you can find a government contract that will instantly make you that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, and you basically just have to make sure that you deliver.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the contract's going to be for whatever a lot of years is for, or maybe you're just doing, like the resources, like it could be like toilet paper or, or tissues or paper clips or whatever the case may be. There's just so many different ways that you can go about it. And whatever business you're in, like you can create like a government contracting division and then just service the government. And it may not be in the direct way that you currently are servicing customers, but it could be in a different way that serves them, but kind of keeps you in your category.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
super interesting.
Yeah, no, and so that's what I love that like I said, we had this kind of tight thesis around, advancing America through venture capital. And so it's focused on national security and dual use. So our portfolio companies are 3D printed drones, 3D printed satellites, cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Like things that,
all the cool stuff.
All the cool stuff that the government needs, right? Like we need to be equipping, our government, our warfighters. And most importantly, it's created by veterans and military spouses, right? It's created by the people who were boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And now they're creating the technology that they wish they would have had out there.
Yeah.
It's such a win-win. And just on a personal level, like it spoke to me so deeply. Like again, coming from a military family, my dad passed in 2020.
Sorry to hear that. Mine did as well. Yeah, not 2020, but years ago. Yeah.
So it's like, I know he just would have been absolutely thrilled.
He just would have
been like, he just would have been so freaking pumped about the fund and what we're doing and what we're investing in. Like it just would have been his jam. So it just spoke to me. Like I was like, I have to be part of this.
Can you run us through really quick what it would look like if someone like would pitch you to, potentially get, and then what it looks like, how long does it take, if you guys decide to invest in them? Yeah.
So with the fund, so we have an intake form that will direct folks
to. Is it a job form, Google form?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a job form. So we have an intake form, and it's where we're asking just kind of very high level stuff. And the kind of first line of an engagement, so to speak, is Mike, who's our full-time fund manager, one of the GPs. He'll hop on a Zoom with that founder, like if everything's kind of looking good on the type form and we want to learn more.
It's like a pre-interview?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he'll hop on a Zoom and again, just kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive, get a gauge of like where they are in the process, what are things looking like? Are they pre-revenue? do they have commercial? We like to see commercial first application. Have they already looked into government contracts? Like, where are they at in the process? And then if he likes it and he's excited, then we schedule a GP call. So all of us get on, and then that's our opportunity again, just to like keep peeling back the layers. Exactly. If it moves past that, then we ask for access to the deal room. We want all the things. We want to see all the things. And then we also lean on our subject matter experts. So we have incredible LPs and venture partners in our fund. Everything from, military leadership, General Stanley McChrystal, General Trent Edwards. I mean, these are like high level military folks, to, strong business leaders. Ken McElroy, one of my real estate mentors, he's one of our LPs. He's a subject matter expert. And then the mindfulness space. Deepak Chopra is one of our LPs. So for us, the mindfulness components is really important because this, like when you're building a business, it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some of that mental grit and that mental resiliency already equipped in you, and I think most veterans do, which is why I like investing in them, because they already have the don't quit button.
They've gone through it.
They've been there. They're literally battle tested, right? But with that mindfulness piece, it's really important to us because that means you're self-aware.
Yeah.
So we have this huge stable of folks that are subject matter experts in name your field. So then if we like what we're seeing so far and we've started poking through the deal room and they've talked to all the GPs and we're liking it, then we'll open it up to essentially an LP call where we'll reach out to our subject matter experts. For example, when we were doing due diligence on Proteus Space, which is now one of our portfolio companies that we invested in, they're doing 3D printed satellites. And I am not a subject matter expert in 3D printed satellites by any stretch of the imagination. So that's not for me to say that this is a good or bad investment, right? Like I can look at numbers, I can look at their burn rate, I can look at all those things, but like I don't have a gauge, right? General Trent Edwards, one of our LPs, this guy is amazing. He like stood up Space Force, like he's a big deal. And Trent got on and he's firing questions, right? Like he's going through everything. Like he's on with their technical founder and they're going back and forth. And like, that's what you want to see, right? Like you want to see that deep due diligence being done by subject matter experts that you trust so that when the conversation's over and it's all said and done and they've gone through the deal room, that's when they get a chance to come back and we give them kind of like a Julius Caesar, like yay or nay, would you invest?
Yeah. That's pretty dope. How long does that process take about?
On the short end, just a matter of weeks.
So there's a lot going on pretty fast.
Yeah, we like to move quick because we've been on the other end where like you get slow stepped and it's just like this behemoth to try to move things.
Yeah, makes sense.
And like the reality is, especially if like this with companies, like money's like jet fuel, and especially when you're in tech like this, like you need money quickly to deploy it to get it working for you. Like you can't be waiting 6 months. Like it's just crazy.
So outside of all this amazing business stuff that you're doing and all this impact that you're having, right? Financially and obviously in the community and starting these businesses and helping out these companies and stuff like that, what are you doing? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Like, do you take trips? Do you knit? Are you reading? Like, how are you growing? How are you investing in yourself? And what does that look like when you're not doing all these amazing things that we talked about?
I read a lot. Yeah. Big reader.
So you read in fiction, nonfiction, business?
Both.
Okay.
I like both. Yeah. A big reader. I love going to like impactful conferences that are important to me.
Yeah. I really enjoy that too.
It's important, and I love the people I meet too. So I love like Limitless, which is a conference that Ken puts on every year. It's just awesome. It's so good for like real estate investors. I'm really excited just in a couple of weeks here, EVX, which is the Anglo Invokers National Conference. It's going to be in Vegas.
Okay.
So we're super pumped for that. They're bringing some amazing speakers and just, again, it's just a chance for everyone to like get together and deals bring deals, you know? So when you're around everybody, like it's just such an awesome, exciting environment. And then naturally there's like amazing work that comes out of it too. But one of the things I really enjoy, so I have 2 corgis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have 2 corgis. Mom. Yeah, I'm a dog mom.
Yeah.
And their names are Kimchi and Cupcake.
Kimchi and Cupcake. Okay.
And they're amazing. I love them. But one of them, Cupcake, she is a certified hospital pet therapy dog.
Okay.
And so on Fridays,
she got work to do.
That girl puts in the work. Okay. Yeah. On Fridays, we actually go volunteer at Summerlin Hospital and we go visit the kids. And it's awesome. It is like the most rewarding, selfishly like fulfilling thing that I get to do every week.
That's every Friday.
Mm-hmm. if I'm in town.
1-2 hours?
1 hour.
Okay, cool.
It's nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes me 20 minutes to drive there. We're there for an hour.
Yeah, and you make an impact.
It's so nothing out of my time, right? And yet priceless, right? So we do 6th floor, which is kids oncology. These are kiddos with cancer. 5th floor is kids ICU.
See, I would get a dog for that.
It's incredible.
That's
and then
amazing.
1st floor is pediatric ER.
So you visit all the floors?
We visit all of them. And Cupcake, her personality is so sweet and like she's a cuddle bug. She just wants to cuddle with you. She's extremely high tolerance for like kids screaming, anything. Like she's so good. She's so chill. So it's perfect for her because she loves it, right? This is not a dog that's like doesn't like to be touched or something. Like she loves it. And these kids love it, right? And the parents love it. And the nurses love it. Like they don't know my name, but they know Cupcake, right? Like we walk in and people are like, Cupcake. Like they're so excited to see her. She's so excited to be there. Like, if I say hospital to her, she knows. And so she's immediately like her butt's wagging, you know, she's so excited. And these kids, like, it's a reprieve, right? It's a chance for them. And they're all hooked up, right? Like it's wild, you know, like it's a chance for them to just be normal and like forget about like being sick in the hospital. They get to like cuddle up with this dog and like get licked on the face and just like chill for a second, you know? And the parents, I mean, God bless it. Like there's so many parents in there who are just like exhausted, right?
Yeah, so it
they're
gives them a
sleeping
break
on
a
a
little
cot.
bit.
Yeah, they're sleeping on a cot in the room, right? And these dogs bring joy, right? Like they just light up and they're like so pumped. They're so happy to see their kid happy. It's great.
Yeah. You still didn't tell me what you do, though. You know what I'm saying?
No, that definitely like feeds me for sure. Like makes me feel really good.
I guess the reason why I'm like harping on it a little bit because like you do so much, but you do so much for others. So I'm just curious, like how do you continue to pour back into yourself so you can share with others?
And this might be a byproduct of being an only child, but like I
oh yeah, you are too. So am I.
Yeah, I'm an only child.
Let's go.
So like I have a good amount of alone time.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. Like my evenings are to myself. Like, you know, there might be social stuff or whatever, but like I'm not out, you know, regularly.
Yeah.
I'm out for special occasions, you know, like my evenings are to myself, my mornings are to myself. Like I spend quite a bit of time alone.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, social media just makes me look so busy, right? Like I do.
So that means you have more time to do another business or something.
The way I look at it is like, you know, just to your point, right? Like you can't pour water from an empty well. So the way that I charge up is like, and I need shorter bursts. It's not that I need like 2 days by myself. I agree.
That's kind of like how I am too.
I just need a little short burst where I'm like, okay, like I've spent my entire day talking to people and like being out and whatever. So like after the dinner, I get to go home. I'm gonna take my dogs to the park. I'm gonna chill and like I'm gonna talk to my mom and like that's it. You know, like I'm not out and about. I'm not whatever. Like I get a chance to just like chill.
Hey, listen, if you're looking to grow your podcast business or you're looking to leverage podcasts to grow your business, you want to tap in to the Podcast to Profits Academy. We're going to teach you exactly what it takes for you to get more exposure to grow and scale your business or leverage podcasts so you can do more revenue. What you want to do is head over to podcast2profits.com and apply to work with me and a member of my team. So if you were looking back at like your journey thus far, you were starting over, maybe you're mentoring. Do you mentorship for like other entrepreneurs or anything like that?
Yeah, in a very informal way. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is if you were looking back on everything that you've already done and you wanted to give maybe 3 or 4 keys, principles, you know, maybe some important lessons so they can skip some steps, some hurdles that you may have, you know, fell into or maybe stumbled on. What would 3 or 4 of those things be that you feel like, hey, listen, these things, if you get down, you can accelerate your growth a little bit?
Number 1, proximity is everything.
So when you say proximity to people, environment, what would you say?
All of the above, right? So if you hang out with 5 potheads, you'll be the 6th. You hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. It's inevitable. It's guaranteed. Proximity is everything.
I love that.
Number 2 is a quote my parents told me growing up, and it's still so true. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Facts.
So you don't have to be the smartest, the most successful, the prettiest, whatever. Like you don't have to be any of that. If you come in strong with a work ethic, it shows. People see it, they recognize it. You will get further displaying that and being consistent. Just simply do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. Patriots.
Like as much as possible, all the time.
So I'm from Boston. So Patriots had a campaign one season. I forget what it was, but it was really simple. Just like kind of to your point, just do your job. Right? So know what your job is. Do it, be consistent, show up. So I like that.
Yeah, that's legit like half the battle. The third thing I'd say, don't be scared. Like don't be scared to think about teaming up with someone. Like be curious so that you're like, oh, like I would wonder about that, or pull on the string, right? Like I wonder about that business. Like when we started Sin City Cupcakes, I didn't even know how to bake. I did not know how to bake. I didn't start that company because I was a passionate baker.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to bake. It just Danielle told me what she was doing, and I was like, dude, that's such a great idea.
I think I love that about you, even though I'm just meeting you right now, is that if, like, hearing you tell your story, like you didn't know much about the cupcakes, partnered up, right? You didn't really know what's going on with the venture capital, partnered up. Post office stores, partnered up. You know what I mean? Like you partnering up, but you're getting in, right? You're learning as you go. Some of these businesses you might have invested some money in. Some of them some sweat equity, some of them both. Yep. But I mean, you did enough to get in, build a good partnership, like you said, with the proximity, and then you've been able to grow and develop. And I think that's definitely something that people they just kind of just overlook it, and that prevents them from starting or getting in there or staying in there.
Yeah, just like get in there, right? Yeah. Like if you want to get into real estate and real estate investing, how are you not going to like a solid, like a Limitless or like a solid real estate investing conference? Maybe you're not a real estate investor right now, but like, don't you want to be around people who are? Like I said, the proximity piece is the largest part because you are going to be doing whatever it is people around you are doing, for better or for worse.
Man, this has been amazing. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And is there anything you want to share finally with the people, the viewers, the listeners, anything that you want them to take away from that you didn't already give? You gave so much. There's so much value in here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And, I'm grateful for, the opportunities that have come just by being open, right? By sharing information and like not gatekeeping and saying it out there like publicly. Like it's been incredible, the type of opportunities and people I've gotten to meet, because there's so much that's out there, right? So much noise, right? There's so much noise out there, but like if you are selective in what you consume, right? The sky's the limit. You never know like what could come of it or what you could learn or what idea could spark, and like your life could change. So where can they go tap in with you, learn more about you, maybe grab the course or, where's that at? The course is at mailboxmoneycourse.com. And I'm on all the social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the things at Lisa Song Sutton. Lisa Song Sutton. Listen, I really appreciate you spending time with us. I want to ask you one more thing. What is the current book you are reading, and why are you currently reading that? I am currently reading 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. And I'm reading it. One, it was a gift, like kind of an old gift that like I was like, oh, I should get around to reading this. I finally got around to it. And I'm a big proponent of just personal development, personal growth. Being a member of YPO, like we have a forum that meets once a month, and it's focused on personal development. And I just think it's so important. So it's something I pour into for sure. Man, I appreciate that. So listen, we will put a link below for you guys to grab it, right? If you want to get into it. Lisa, really appreciate you spending time with us on the podcast. Make sure you guys follow her, tap into that course. Look her up on YouTube. There's so many, just like I did, there's so many amazing interviews that she also did where you can kind of dive a little bit more into her story. But this has been another episode of the On the Pursuit podcast. Lisa Song Sutton, Brendan Boyd. We'll see you guys on the next one.